week's Ask Schellie segment. Hello, Facebook. Welcome. Hello, Instagram. Welcome to this week's Ask Schellie segment. I hope I got everything together here. Hello. Thank you for joining this week's Ask Schellie segment. Hello, Facebook. Welcome to this week's Ask Schellie segment. My name is Schellie Fan. I am your emotional intelligence expert coming at you with another weekly Ask Schellie segment. Let me just make sure that the lighting and everything is okay before we get started. Again, my name is Schellie Fan. I am the CEO and founder of Ask Schellie Consulting, which is an emotional intelligence firm where we assist corporations and other business entities to get to their next level. We're maximizing peak performance through the provision of psychoeducation. That is what I do. I'm also the co-owner of a practice here in Orlando. I'm a Florida State licensed psychotherapist, and I have the privilege of changing the world, one life, one marriage, one family, one couple at a time, one child at a time. And as a licensed psychotherapist, we are often asked questions. People want to know about people. People want to know about humans. What causes us to think the way that we think, and what causes us to respond the way that we respond. People want to know about their relationships, about their sex lives, about, establishing or operating in purpose and establishing businesses. There's so much. And people just want to know about how the human mind operates. And so I'm often asked questions. And so I take this time every Tuesday at 12 to share a question with my listeners. And I invite my listeners to join in on this consultation team, is what I call it, to assist me in providing a response to people. This is in no way an attempt to replace the process of therapy, right? Because therapy is a process that is, it's a decision. It starts with a decision that someone makes to take certain steps to break out of stuck, to get to higher levels of wellness. And that includes giving consent, understanding the liabilities to the therapeutic process, aligning yourself with a licensed psychotherapist, and consenting to a treatment plan, and then taking that journey with someone. That's what therapy is. This is not therapy, but it's an opportunity to share a perspective. It gives my listeners an opportunity to share a perspective that people can add to their their wellness toolboxes is what I call it. It's an opportunity to get a new perspective, or maybe reinforce your perspective, so that you can add it to your wellness toolbox and you can share it with a friend or loved one. And I don't declare that I know it all, but I definitely try my best to give a comprehensive response as much as I possibly can. So this week, we don't necessarily have a specific question. I wanted to take this time to just kind of go over some survival tips for us. We are going through some challenging times right now. And a lot of the questions that people ask is, how do I deal with this anxiety? How do I deal with this frustration? How do I deal with just being home? How do I deal with all of the what ifs about the immediate future? Like, how do I deal with all of this? My kids are out of school. I'm out of, routine. I don't know about where things are going to take me in terms of job security. There's so many questions, and there's this global collective consciousness right now about our tomorrow, right? We just have this global consciousness, this global awareness right now about our tomorrow. And so I just want to share some survival tips for all of you, and you can, adopt what works for you and what doesn't work for you. You can recommend it for a friend, but this is just a general and open conversation about surviving this time. And so this is what I would like you to do. Usually when I present questions from a listener, you guys chime in on your response to what you think is best. So when people are calling in and they want to know, how do I leave this relationship? Or how do I know my husband's cheating? Or how do I know whatever it is, you guys chime in and provide feedback. I want you to do the same in this conversation as well. We're talking about surviving the times. And so because we're having this open communication, I'd like for you guys to share how many of you are struggling right now. How many of you feel like you're really overwhelmed with anxiety? How many of you started feeling that way and now you're feeling a little bit better, you're feeling a little bit more grounded? I want to hear if you feel that you're getting better through this process and exactly what you're doing to get through, because we want to hear what tools work for you. So again, the question to you, the listeners, is how are you feeling right now? If you had to take self-inventory, grade your own paper on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being extreme and 1 being no problem, what do you rate yourself right now as it relates to anxiety? Fear and anxiety, what are you rating yourself right now? So I want you to grade your paper 1 through 5. 5 being I am completely a wreck. I'm an anxious wreck. To 1 being I'm good. I want to hear from you. I want to know how you're feeling. So if you would just comment and let me know what number you're giving yourself. We are talking about surviving these times. Lewis is giving himself a 1. That's awesome. Lewis, can you share what you're doing? Were you always a 1? Did it start out like at a 5 at first and then it went down to a 1? And if so, what did you do to bring that number down? And if it was always a 1, what do you think is working for you? I want us to support one another. And does it mean that what works for Lewis may work for everybody? It may not, but listen, we have to make sure that we are taking in new information. If it doesn't work for you, it will work for someone else. Danielle Blanchard is saying she's a 1. Lewis says, I always have been a 1. We have someone who's a 5. She says she's bored. Okay, we're going to talk about boredom today. We're going to talk about boredom today because boredom, can exacerbate depression. And we want to make sure that people are staying well in this time. And so for those of you who gave yourself a 1, what is your mindset? What keeps you at this 1? There are people that are really, really, really struggling right now. And guys, let me tell you, as a licensed psychotherapist, I can't share the information, right? Can't really share people's names and stuff, but I'm letting you know that there are people that are very prominent in this community that really feel like I am ready to check myself into a hospital. That is how bad it is. My phone is ringing off the hook. Referrals out the yin yang. You think that people want to pull back right now, but they're really like, I need help getting through this. The uncertainty is killing them. Why? We live in a society where we need to know. And I'm that way too. You put on your GPS and go straight to the end, right? You look at the directions because you don't want to go step by step or listen to turn right, turn left. We are not a step-by-step type of society. We have to know. And people who have power and control issues are having a really hard time right now with all of this uncertainty. Lewis says, job secure, but I'm using this time to appreciate more time with my kids. And this is we talked about this with the Kobe death. When we talked about the story doesn't always play out the way that we expected, but we have to be a people that are resilient, that when the story doesn't play out quite the way we plan, that we learn how to add some honey to those lemons and make it lemonade. That's resilience. Even with therapists that I supervise, that are always trying to teach mechanisms, which is good, because I always say a lot of the things that we need to break past, we need new information in order to do so. We need to learn new skills. And so teaching mechanisms, teaching how to cope, teaching those skills is very powerful. But there are certain situations in life that we're going to have to learn to just sit in it and grow through it. And you know what that takes? Resilience. It takes a change in perspective and understanding that at the end, on the other side, it will be okay, right? And having that faith and understanding it. Creations from 2Z says, I'm a one. I'm taking time working on my crafts. In Arizona, we can still attend church, so that also helps me. Great. So you have a support. You have something that's working for you. One of the things that I want to make sure is that we remember 5 things, okay? And like I said, people do different things. I want you to kind of hear some of these tips, chime in on whether you think that works for you. You can continue to comment on what works for you so that it can be a resource for someone else. It's important in this time that we get up, get groomed, get fueled, plan, and activate. Get up, get groomed, get fueled, plan, and then activate. We have to get up, we have to get groomed, get fueled, plan, and then activate. Lewis says, our people have always been a resilient group. Dealing with hardship and tough times is nothing new for us. We have that resilience. It's important to tap in. You know, I was doing research the other day on calamity, okay? I was doing some research on calamity the other day. So I was deep in prayer and I was like, you know what? I want to understand this more. So I started reading about calamity and different plagues and all these, not only in Bible times, but outside of Bible times as well. And one of the things that I realized is that when they quarantine, they often did this because it was almost like a self-resolving issue. They knew that at the end of the quarantine period, those who were going to die would have died, and those who survived would have survived, and they would have dealt with the situation later. So after the quarantine, either you died or you survived. It was just that. And so they used that time to just, for the people who are going to die, let them just die in this time, in this quarantine. And a lot of times it was 40 days. That was another interesting thing, but that's a whole nother lie. That it was like, that was just this magical number that they used, 40 days. But they would go through these 40-day quarantines, and the leaders of the land understood that people were either going to die or survive. Either they were going to die or survive. And so this is us. We have the choice to dive, to go under, or survive and thrive through this. And so we have to make sure that we're tapping in the resilience that's embedded in us, because it's there. We can get through. So thank you so much for those words. So Fatumata Diara, she says, I am a 5, working from home, monitoring my children's assignments on Google Classroom, cooking, cleaning, worrying about everyone. Stuck home. Okay, Shantae Vincent says, I keep repeating to myself that fear lowers immunity, and my children are watching how we handle this as well. We are gardening our own food and keeping busy with online courses. Thank you so much for sharing. Now, this is important. So we talked about 5 steps. Get up, get groomed, get fueled, plan, and activate. Let's start with the first one. Get up! I know that sounds weird, like really? Like that's the best that you can do? Do you know how many people are now sleeping into the wee hours of the day because they're not reporting to work? And so they're just sleeping in. And it's okay if you did that the first couple of days, but look, we've been doing this for some days now. It's important to get up, to try to stay as close to your regular schedule as possible. So if you were one that got up in the morning around 5 or 6 o'clock and were out of the house at about 7 or 8, do the same thing. Get up. This is not the time to sleep in and be in bed and be unproductive. Your unproductivity is going to do no good thing. It's important for us to continue to remain productive, and we have to start by what? Getting up in the morning. It is okay for you to pick out certain days that you're going to sleep in. That's what we should be doing anyway. But if that is not your norm, it's important important to try to keep to your normal routine as much as humanly possible, especially for your children as well. So what? Get up. I need you to tell me, let me know you're hearing this, and comment, get up. Get your butt up. Get up in the morning. It's important that you're still getting up. Next, get groomed. A lot of the people that are calling me like, I don't know what to do. I'm going crazy here. They're not keeping to their routines. Lewis, thank you for that. He says maintaining routines is important. Thank you, Shantae. Get up. And then people are saying, so when I ask them, what are you doing? I'm hearing that people are not even bathing or getting dressed, and this is big for people who work from home. When they are getting treated for depression, one of the things that I always say is still get up and get dressed. Where's the business casual wear that you usually wear, whatever that is, still get dressed, still have your breakfast, and just know that when you walk into your office space or whatever your workspace is, you are now working. And so get up and get groomed. Take a shower, still shave, still do your hair, still throw on some blush, get dressed. You may not necessarily need to get dressed in a 3-piece suit, but make sure that you are dressing in a way that's telling your brain that we are going to be productive today. So we got to get up, we got to get groomed, we got to get fueled, right? And how do we fuel up? We fuel up with a good breakfast, making sure that you are giving your body what it needs, because this is very important. Self-care is not about doing what you want. While it is a part of it, self-care is about doing what you need. Mind, body, and soul. So it's important to start your day with a good fueling breakfast, okay? And making sure that you are hydrating, you're making sure that your family members are eating well, so you're getting fueled. So what are we doing? We're getting up, we're getting groomed, and we're getting fueled. The next part is to plan out your day. This is important. You have to plan out your day. The reason why we're doing this after getting fueled is because we want to, first of all, give our body time to digest, because guess what you're going to do after you take your hour of planning and organizing your day, your kids' day? You know what you're going to do after that? Yes, you're going to exercise. So after your breakfast, you want to give yourself that hour because you were about to kill it and you're about to just that's part of the fueling, right? Is exercise. So again, we're getting up. We're getting groomed, right? I'm home right now, right? I could have done this live with a cap and a t-shirt, but I understand the importance of sticking to my routine so that I'm not shrinking back to a place of unproductivity. Unproductivity begets depression. Depression begets anxiety, and it just goes on and on. I need to feel productive, so I got to get up, take a shower, get dressed, look good, dress well, and then get fueled. And after you get fueled, you're planning out your day. And here are some of the things that you have to make sure that you are incorporating in your plan for the day. And remember, some of you are responsible for also planning out your kids' days, right? So you're making sure that you're trying to stick as close as you can to their regular school day, giving them their breaks, making sure they're sitting down and doing their works and getting their breaks and getting their recess, trying again to stay as close to routine as possible. Some of the things that you want to make sure that you plan, right? When you sit there and you're now planning, make sure you incorporate exposure to sunlight. Why are we doing this? Why are we exposing ourselves to sunlight? There are certain people that are locked in their homes, their blinds are drawn. And what is that going to do? What is that going to promote? Tell me, my consultation team, what is that going to promote? Depression. It's going to promote depression. And who's married to depression? Who's the bride of depression? Drum roll, please. Anxiety. So we want to make sure that we're planning exposure to sunlight, whether you're choosing to exercise outside, whether you're taking a couple of walks a day with your children, getting out to the park, whatever it is you're doing, make sure your plan includes exposure to sunlight. Make sure that your plan includes exercise. Make sure that your plan includes your meals. Your meals. We will not gain 100 pounds during this coronavirus quarantine, y'all. Can I get an amen? We're not getting fat. We're not becoming unhealthy during this quarantine. Can I get an amen? I'm cooking all types of stuff. So yesterday I was like, no rice, no carbs. We're going to have some protein. We're going to have some salad because we're home more. And where someone on Instagram says, amen. Yes, amen. We are not getting unhealthy during this quarantine. So plan out your meals. Louis, you can also speak on this, I'm sure. You know, your 3 meals, your snacks, make sure you're planning out your meals so you're not eating 20 times a day. We're home. The pantry is there. You're anxious. You're an emotional eater. Whatever it is, make sure that you're planning out your meals for your body, and make sure, drum roll please, that you are planning out your meals for your soul. Listen, when we get squeezed, when the pressure comes, when you squeeze a grape, you get what? You get grape juice. When you squeeze a kingdom believer, you should get what? Jesus. You should get the word. So if you are emitting anxiety and hysteria and panic, you have to be very careful of what your intake is, what you are allowing in your eye and ear gates. So as you're planning out your physical meals, make sure you're planning out your spiritual meals as well. So if you're going to have 3 meals a day, you're going to make sure that you allow yourself some snacks. You're making sure you're having periods of hydration. Make sure you're doing that for your spirit as well. 12 o'clock, time for a scripture, a quick prayer, get back into it. 2 o'clock, quick scripture, quick prayer, get back to your to-do list. In the evening, before bed, you gather so make sure you're planning out your physical meals and also your spiritual meals. It's important that you're planning out your news intake. Plan that out. If you are one that has CNN playing all day, I am encouraging you to turn the television off. Plan out maybe 3 times a day, 15 to 20 minutes at a time, that you're giving yourself an opportunity to get aware, but not consumed. We want to be aware, but we don't want to be consumed. So even plan out your news intake during the day as well. That at certain times, 3 times a day, 15 to 20 minutes a day, you're giving yourself time to become aware and updated, and then you turn it off. Okay? So we talked about planning out sunlight, planning out exercise, planning out your meals for your body, planning out your meals for your soul, making sure that you're planning your exposure to the news. You also want to plan out connecting with loved ones. That is very important during this time, that we are connecting with our loved ones. And I know that we are practicing social distance right now. Hello, Jimmy House. Thank you for joining on Instagram. We know that we're practicing social distancing. So whether you are calling all your cousins from New York or Haiti or whatever, wherever they are across the world, who knows, that you're creating these Zoom dates with your family. And I'll come on Zoom, have a happy hour with your family. Everybody bring a beverage and let's get on Instagram or let's get on Zoom or whatever other group virtual meeting platforms they are, and just stay connected with the people that you love. And it's important to plan that. It's important to plan quality time with the people that you are quarantining with, those who are in your personal space. And when I say quality time, oh Lord, you guys, those who listen to me, know that, oh Lord, here she goes with this again. I will say this, we have to be careful what we consider quality time. So I want you to give me examples of what you can do at home that you consider quality time with the people that you love, whether it's a loved one, your spouse, your children. What do you consider quality time? Because after you make that determination, you have to make sure that it passes this test. Quality time is when there are 3 forms of contact happening at once. 3 forms of contact. That is eye contact, verbal contact, and skin contact. That is very important. These types of contact with the people that we love promote attachment and bonding. And so there are times that we may consider things quality time, and they may be. It's important to share time and space, but just make sure you're not just sharing time and space, but you're making those opportunities where you are sharing time and space, that you're making it quality in nature, right? That they are quality times that you're sharing time and space in. Does that make sense? Because we can be in the same place and not necessarily be attaching to one another. So going to the movies is great. You can go to the movies, you can watch movies at home, you can be doing your own independent projects in the same place, and that's cool. You guys are sharing time and space, but just make sure that you're being intentional about optimizing what you're doing when you're sharing time and space, because quality time is 3 contacts happening at one time. And that is what? Eye, verbal, and skin. And what does that? What contacts promote that? You can do that by just talking with your kids, having time outside, sharing a meal in a picnic space, or where you can do those. There's so many things that we can do to make sure that those forms of contact are happening at one time. That's very important. So after we plan out our day, right? After we plan out our day and we have put everything into perspective for the day, the things that we're going to do to promote the restoration of your environment, right? Environmental restoration. What does that mean? Like, what's that mean? Environmental restoration is the garage that needs to be put in order, right? The fans that need to be dusted off, the baseboards that, when you think about what you have to do for your job, your career, what you're doing for your business, make sure that you're incorporating things for restoring your environment, some group projects you can do with the people that you love. Make sure that you are planning it all out, right? And then you activate your plan. And that is commit yourself to sticking to that plan, being productive for that day. So what are some survival tips? Get up in the morning, all right? Don't sleep in. You can plan your sleep-ins on the weekend. Make sure that you're getting groomed, that you're getting fueled with a great breakfast, that you're planning out your day, and you're making sure that you're putting in your plan those essential things. Exposure to sunlight, making sure that you're planning out your meals for your body, meals for your soul, that you're limiting your news intake, that you're even planning that out, planning out how you're connecting with family members that you are not physically with, making sure that you're planning quality time with those who you are with. That's very important. Then making sure that you're doing what you have to do for your job, making sure that you're still staying on top of your businesses or business plans or whatever you're doing, making sure that you're adding some environmental restoration stuff and getting your house together, those projects that you started and never finished, and then making sure that you activate that plan. That's very important. So I want to talk about boredom. Let's talk about boredom very quickly. And we can go so many different ways with how to overcome boredom, but we don't have a lot of time. So I just want to focus on something. Again, we talked about self-care is not necessarily about what we want to do, but things that we need to do. And one of the things that the brain absolutely needs is diversity. The brain needs diversity. And a lot of times when people are coming in, they're feeling stuck, they're feeling depressed. I'm seeing that in their lives, there's not enough diversity to stimulate the brain and keep the brain producing more brain cells and operating at peak performance. We need diversity. So what does that look like? What does that look like? How many of you are right-handed? How many of you are right-handed? Let me know if you are right-handed. Let me know if you are right-handed. Most people are right-handed in this world, right? So if that's you, comment. Let me know that you are right-handed. How many right-handers do we have on Instagram? If you're right-handed here on Facebook, let me know. So some examples of how to introduce diversity into our brains and assure that our brain cells are not just dying off at this time, right? Because you're so bored, you're not necessarily stimulating yourself or stimulating yourself intellectually, is going to be to try to use your non-dominant hand during this time. Okay, so creations from A to Z. Oh, that's what it is. Creations from A to Z. I just realized what that said. Yeah, I need glasses. So creations from A to Z says she's right-handed. So how many times do you intentionally use your left hand? How many times do you intentionally use your left hand? If you are never challenging yourself by using the non-dominant hand, you are allowing one side of your brain to literally start the dying off process. So it's important that we are intentional about using our less dominant hand so that we are keeping the other side of our brains alert and open and working. And so that is just an example of how you can introduce diversity into your day-to-day. And so during this time, right, use your non-dominant hand. Be intentional about it. Wake up the other side of that brain, okay? That's just one example of introducing diversity into your day-to-day. The next thing is making sure that you are learning a new thing. And so I always encourage people to consider learning a new language. The things that learning a new language does for your brain is amazing, okay? So so Jimmy says, I'm going to use my left hand today at work locking gates. Do that. Tell the other side of your brain, don't let it die. There's only two things that could happen in your brain, right? Your brain cells can only die or multiply. That's it. They can only die or multiply. So when we are only constantly using one side of our brain, I'm ambidextrous, so I'm good. I'm always stimulating different sides of my brain, and my creativity stays at peak performance. My clarity stays at peak performance because I'm intentional about using both sides. So that's important. So we talked about also learning a new language. There are apps. It's so easy in this day and age to learn a new language. Download the apps. For those of you who are listening, what are some apps out there? I will comment later on some apps that you can use to learn a new language, okay? What a perfect time to do that. You can add that to your daily plan that you're logging onto these apps and learning a new language for a couple of hours out of the day. Learning a new language is an amazing way to keep your brain cells multiplying. You know what else is? Learning to play a new instrument. Learning to play a new instrument. Not all of us may have that as an opportunity, but if you have that harmonica in your home that you never use, that guitar that looks so pretty in your living room that you've never picked up, grab it. Learn to play a new instrument. Diversity is very important for you to overcome boredom during this time. We don't want your brains to fall into a place of non-productivity because your brains can only do two things. Your brain cells can only die or multiply. I also want to share this, and I don't know how masculine this is, but in my research learned that knitting and crocheting is an amazing way to counteract depression and anxiety. It promotes extreme clarity in thoughts and thinking, right? It creates an amazing conduit to decompress and process. Knitting and crocheting. How many of you knit or crochet? I've always wanted to learn how to knit or crochet and to know that it actually counteracts depression, counteracts anxiety, an amazing way to decompress Yes, organize your thoughts and even process emotions through knitting and crocheting. What an amazing time to introduce something that we would have never thought is an actual wellness tool for us. What a time to lean on those things now. Creations from A to Z says, funny, I've been learning new language through app to speak Hebrew. It was for a trip to Israel that was canceled. Keep doing it. Keep doing it, Creations from A to Z. How many of you have been intentional about learning a new language? This is very important to counteract boredom. Get your brains working. Get your brain stimulating. Get those brain cells multiplying. So we talked about diversity, learning a new language, learning to play a new instrument. We talked about knitting and the benefits of that. I want to go into decompressing. We may have to do a part 2 to this because there's so many aspects to managing anxiety. Now, when we're talking about decompressing, we're talking about reducing pressure. Reducing pressure, which is making sure that we can reduce pressure, that we can literally cause ourselves to transition from a more elevated mood to one that is more relaxed and calm. Too many of us rely on environmental stimuli or external triggers to dictate how we feel. That's horrible. We're waiting for the stress to go away in order to feel calm. Well, if that's the case, you're always going to be stressed. We have to be able to achieve states of calm regardless of what is going on around us. Let me repeat that. Too many of us rely on environmental triggers and external stimuli to dictate how we feel. So we want the stressors to stop in order for us to feel calm. No, we should, in the midst of the storm, learn and know how to decompress, how to reduce pressure, how to calm ourselves so that we can stay healthy. If we rely or we're waiting for the environment to change, we're waiting for the bills to go away, we're waiting for our marriages to get better, we're waiting for our children to act right, then you're never going to be able to dominate in your emotions. And if you cannot dominate in your emotions, you can't dominate in anything, because there is no health without mental health. There is no health without mental health. Mental health will always be a ceiling, a glass ceiling, a limit. You cannot surpass your level of mental health. You just cannot. You can be productive, you can be successful, but you will never ever be able to surpass your level of wellness, right? In your productivity. And so when we're talking about decompressing, I did a post the other day where I talked about driving home barefooted with no music, and just making sure that I was giving myself an opportunity to decompress that way. And the private messages and emails that I got were amazing. People who were saying, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to decompress. And so in that post, I had people kind of talk about the things that they do to decompress. And it's important for us to understand that when we are decompressing, that we're very clear about our senses, that we're clear about how our senses are responding to external stimuli. So here we go, starting with hearing. What is it that calms you as it relates to what you are hearing? Okay? And I want you to respond to me, those who are logged in, even if you're catching the replay. What calms you down when we're specifically as it relates to what you are hearing? We're talking about your sense of hearing. For me, it all depends on my level of stress and anxiety at the time. Sometimes I'm at a place where what I need to hear is complete silence. And so if that is the case, the wellness tool or the mechanism that I elect has to be one that gives me an opportunity to sit in silence. There are times that based on how I'm elevated, that I need music because I respond significantly to music. So I have a power prayer instrumental that I listen to that helps me to stay calm. So what is it for you that stimulates your hearing, that causes you to calm down? See, this is when you start to, I think that sometimes we think about calming down or controlling our anxiety like an elephant. But there's only one way to eat an elephant, and that's one bite at a time. So let's break it down to make sure that you're not just doing things that are not effective for you. So we talked about hearing. What is it that you need to hear? Those things that help you to calm down, that again, specifically as it relates to what you are hearing. So Creations from A to Z is saying certain worship songs. Perfect. And for me as well, I love when I'm at a place where I do want to enter into that level of intimacy with God, worship music does that for me. But for specifically as it relates to decompressing, most of the time I need complete silence, or I need to listen to my prayer instrumental. I don't want to hear words. I don't want to be stimulated emotionally, and sometimes worship music does that for me. I just need to hear sounds of instrumental that helps me to engage in my belly breathing. My belly breathing. So many of us don't even breathe correctly. I have clients that come in and say, that deep breathing exercise didn't work for me. It's not that it did not work for you. It's just that you're not doing it right. I have clients that I see at the jail, and they're like in the midst of being escalated and elevated in their anger, and their chest is going in and up and down, and they're saying it doesn't work. And I'm like, well, you're not doing it right. Calm down. Put your hands on your belly. And when you breathe in, expand that belly to where it can't expand anymore. And they do it. That's hard, to not allow your chest to rise when you breathe in, but just allow your stomach to expand. Try it with me. Do not allow your chest to rise when you inhale through your nose. Just allow your belly to expand, right? Let's try it. 1, 2, 3. Hold it. And then slowly you're going to breathe out of your mouth. And when you do that, you're going to allow your stomach to now go from being from a place from expanding to closing back in, and breathe out. And we do that without our chest rising. Belly breathing is important. And that is what I do when I am engaging in my either total silence or in my time when I'm listening to prayer instrumentals. So let's do it again. We're going to breathe in. Don't allow your chest to rise or fall. Just allow your stomach to either expand and then what is the other opposite of expand? Whatever the opposite of expand is, just make sure it does it, okay? Let's do it again. 1, 2, 3. Breathe in through your nose. Expand your stomach. Hold. Breathe out and allow it to come all the way in. You do that all the way in, hold. All the way out, hold. Making sure your chest is not rising and falling, that you're expanding your belly. And do that for about 20 minutes. Ooh, that's so good. So what calms you down through your ears? Seeing. What is it that calms you down based on what you see? What is it that you see, those things that you can see that calm you down? I love to watch my kids eat. Sometimes I'll cook and I'll set up the table for them and just sit across the room and just watch them eat. They think it's the weirdest thing, but I love it. That's a visual for me that calms me down. What's a visual for you that calms you down? I like to sit outside the front of my home and just look at the beauty of nature and just see God in everything. The sky, the flowers, my dead grass, that's a visual that calms me down. It just does. What's a visual that calms you down. When we are talking about decompressing, it's important that you are aware of what that is. What calms you down visually? I want to hear that. What's your visual that calms you down? Share that with me. What's your visual that calms you down? One of the big ones for me is the beach. Oh my gosh, it stimulates so many things for me. It stimulates my hearing in the sounds of the ocean and that sound of the water calming me down. Seeing the water and the beauty of God everywhere, oh my God, calms me down. The smell of the sand and the beach water. I mean, I'm telling all types of sensory stuff happening all at once. So my decompression has to also include going to the beach, right? So Creations from A to Z says, seeing Arizona's sunset and sunrise. That's something that visually stimulates and activates your calm and relaxed response. And that is great. And so we talked about those things that you need to hear to calm you down, the things that you need to see to calm you down. And also we're talking now, we're transitioning into smell, right? That olfactory response to your external stimuli that causes you to calm down. So there's essential oils that are out there that promote calm. So it's important that you choose the one that's best for you. I think one of the number one, the high using ones is lavender. There's others out there to help stimulate your olfactory responses. So it could be a candle, a certain nice smelling candle, but just make sure that whatever you're using to stimulate your olfactory responses are something that calms you down. Lavender may not work for me, right? But being clear about that. Oh my God, the smell of the beach is a big one for me. Definitely calms me down. So we're talking about ways to decompress. What visually stimulates and activates your response, your calm response. The things that activate your calm response that you hear, the things that you smell. It's important that you're also aware of what calms you down in terms of feeling. Someone responded that they love the feeling of hot water on their skin. So what does she do for decompression? She takes baths when she gets home, right? That's really important. One very common one that we never really take time to focus on is the feeling of lotion on our skin. The feeling of lotion on our skin. And so if you choose a lotion that also has the ability to stimulate that olfactory response that we talked about, the smell, the calmness in that, there is a lot of lotions that have the ability to calm you as well. And so when you're using those types of lotions, you've just taken a bath, you've dried yourself off, it's been a really, really rough day, and you put your Bob Marley on, or your Beres Hammond, or your Nora Jones, is that her name? Or whatever, your classical music, and you sit down and you make sure that every square inch of your body is covered in this lotion, and you're taking time to love on yourself. Starting with your feet, lotioning your feet really, really good. Lotioning your legs, making sure you're getting every area of your skin, just feeding your skin. You're just taking time and massaging your body and getting that lotion in, and all of that olfactory stuff is going on, and you're calm, and we're talking about intentional ways to decompress. Lotion love on yourself. That is another way that you are being very mindful of how you're responding in terms of your feelings, the things that you need to feel to calm you down. Some people, it's a massage, and they go and they make sure that they're getting massages once a week or once a month, right? Because that is a way for them to decompress. Yes? And so we're talking about all the different things that we have to consider about how our senses respond to our external world when we are electing ways to decompress. So we talked about deep breathing. I think that's important for all of us to be very mindful of that we take the time to deep breathe, whether you're doing it 20 minutes in the morning, if you're doing it at the end of your day to decompress. We talked about the love lotioning, and journaling is so important. Journaling is a way that we are processing through writing our feelings and our thoughts. And so some people are like, I don't even know where to start. And I say simple as just start with thinking about your day and journaling about the things that you absolutely loved about your day and the things that you didn't love so much about your day, the things that you need to continue to do to keep those things, those desired outcomes coming, and the things that you need to change to minimize those undesired outcomes. That's a great way to start your journaling journey, right? And then it just takes a life of its own. And it gets to a point where it becomes addicting, where it's very hard to go to sleep or to decompose or to decompress without journaling. It's so powerful. It may be tedious at first because you're introducing something new to your day-to-day, but it's so powerful. Deep breathing, taking that time to lotion your body, journaling, just some things that you can add to your wellness toolbox as it relates to decompressing. We talked about a lot today because we're talking about surviving this time and making sure that we are not operating in fear, but we're doing what we need to do to take care of ourselves. Self-care is not about what you want to do. Self-care is about what you need to do. We talked about getting up in the morning. Make sure that you are still getting up in the morning, that you are not allowing yourself to sleep the day away, that you are grooming yourself in the morning, getting dressed, getting up, taking a shower, getting dressed, putting your face on, your hair on, shaving your beard, gentlemen, if that's what you do, and getting dressed well, making sure that you're eating right and getting fueled in the morning, that you're ensuring that you are planning out your entire day, all the way from the time that you're going to sleep, and you're doing the same for your children, that you're including in your plan sunlight and exercise, and you're planning your meals so you're not eating 20 times a day, you're planning your news intake 3 times a day, 20 minutes at a time, that you're planning out your meals for your soul as well, that you're doing what you need to do to finish projects that you didn't get to finish, that you're connecting with family members in a safe way, that you are spending quality time with the people that you love. We talked about activating that plan and being committed to it. We talked about ways, the number one way to counteract boredom, and that is to diversify what you're doing every day. Your brain needs new information. Your brain needs new. So we talked about if you're left-handed, use your right hand a little bit more every day. Be mindful of using your right hand a little bit more every day. If you're right-handed, be intentional about using your left hand during this time. Your brain needs diversity, and your brain cells can only do one thing, right? Your brain cells can only die or multiply. So when we're right hand dominant and we're never really engaging our left hand, you are allowing one side of your brain to literally die, right? So it's important that we are diversifying, that we're being mindful about using that less dominant hand. Learn a new language during this time. Learn to play a new instrument. We talked about knitting and crocheting being an amazing way to process emotions. It comes against depression and anxiety. It helps us to refocus our anxiety, right? That's an amazing way to refocus. So crochet, knit, especially if you're having a hard time really processing all this anxiety during this time. Crochet, knit. We talked about decompressing means that you are reducing pressure and the importance of us being intentional about that. And we talked about while there's so many ways to decompress, make sure that you are mindful about the things that you need to visually, that helps you to, that those visual things that help you to decompress, the things that you need to hear to help you to decompress, the things that you need to smell to help you decompress, and the things that you need to feel on your skin to help you decompress. I use some examples. I need silence sometimes. Sometimes if I do need music to help me to get to a place of calm, it has to be music without words. I don't want to be stimulated with words. I don't want to have to listen to a message. I just want to have I just want to think of nothing, right? Just to hear that instrumental and engage in deep breathing and calm myself down. I talked about visually. I love to watch my kids eat. I love to watch my family interact. I love to be on the beach and see the beauty of God. I love to sit in my front yard and watch and just look at the beautiful trees. So what do you need to see that will help you to calm down? What do you need to smell? These things are important when we are electing how we decompress. You are encouraged to be intentional about deep breathing, be intentional about your love lotioning, taking that lotion, making sure that it's stimulating those calm responses, your olfactory responses to what you're smelling, making sure that you're covering all your body, you're taking your time, you're listening to music, you're lotioning yourself, all that sensory stuff going and really taking you from point 10, from 10, right? Heightened and elevated to a place of calm, and the importance of journaling and really introducing journaling into your wellness arsenal is powerful. Make sure that you are journaling, that you are writing down. It could just be the things that you were grateful for that day, things that you're struggling with. It can be what I just talked about. Think about your day. What went well, what didn't? What can you do differently the next day? It holds you accountable. It puts you in a growth consciousness state of mind. We can do this. We are a resilient people, and we were designed with so much internal strength. We will get through this. And I say this all the time. When you squeeze a grape, this was a man of God, Michael Ward, that said this once on a prayer call. When you squeeze a grape, you get grape juice. And when you squeeze the people of God, you should get Jesus. And so it's okay. Give yourself grace to be, feeling a little anxious and feeling a little fearful about what's going on. You can't really punish yourself for feeling those emotions, but it's important to not stay there. You're feeling anxious, you can still jog anxious. You can still exercise anxious. You can still connect with positive people anxious. Don't focus on the undesired emotion. Just exercise your power to do what you need to stay well in this season. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's Ask Schellie segment, focused on survival tips for getting through this time together. We've been here before. This world has been here before. Calamity has hit before. But one thing that I have noticed in all of the research that I did on calamity in this earth is that great order and catalyst came out of it. So just sit back, relax, and wait, because the story will end great. Make the choice, take care of yourself, dominate in your emotions. See you next Tuesday at 12.